Welcome to the Early Bird Podcast right here on Awesemo.com. Of course, I am Jason. That is Terry McBride. Well, we can see each other. You can't see us because you're listening to us in audio form, but we're here to break down Monday's MLB Slate. Of course, we are sponsored by SuperDraft. But Terry, before we get into everything in terms of Monday's Slate, we had some notable news come down here on Sunday. I guess I don't know how to describe the Cespedes news. The statement by the Mets is very interesting. The statement they put out earlier, and now the fact of he's electing to not play the rest of the 2020 season. But the thing about to me was that statement that Cespedes is not going to be a part of this team in 2020, and how does that kind of affect the Mets in terms of from a daily fantasy sports perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, big surprise. Cespedes is a guy that we're used to getting weird news on. We mentioned, I think last week when we touched on him, that the last injury he had been in an incident with a wild boar. So you get weird news with Yoenis Cespedes, but I don't think any of us thought he would just suddenly opt out of the season. Maybe a strange injury or something like that we were expecting. But this is a really weird one. We were talking before the show, and you mentioned maybe something happened behind the scenes. We just don't have details at this point. But all we need to know for the daily fantasy side is it's a major right-handed power bat out of this Mets lineup. So that's going to have an impact for sure. And this is a team that had a lot of dynamic pieces to it, and he was a guy they were going to be relying on to hit the ball out of the yard. Even though he hadn't been around really the last couple seasons, he still had that power bat, and he was definitely still a key cog in this Mets offense. So tough guy to replace. They brought in Billy Hamilton, not exactly the same kind of profile. Billy Wheels Hamilton doesn't really make a lot of contacts, certainly doesn't hit a lot of home runs. So we'll see how that goes for the Mets easier, but this is definitely going to be an interesting one.
But if Billy gets on first base, watch out.
Yeah, that's for sure. He can still fly, no doubt, in the rare instance that he gets on.
Yeah, that's in season long fantasy contests over the years, Billy Hamilton was always a guy that it was like when draft day was there, it's like, okay, what is a sweet spot? Get Billy. It's if Billy could get on the base more than he does, I mean, he would just be dynamic. But the problem is it's just him getting on base.
That's it. If he could ever manage a 320 on base percentage, I mean, the guy would steal 100 bases. He just couldn't do it. He just couldn't put bat on ball.
He would make a crap ton of money if he could get on base that much.
Oh my God, I know. Just absolutely. I mean, the guy can absolutely fly if you've never seen him run. So definitely, it'll be interesting to see if he picks up any value in, DFS or in season long. At this point in his career, coming to the Mets, it seems like now he might get a little bit of playing time in that outfield. You never know.
Yeah, the other two notable news items in terms of DFS to mention here, the Reds placing Joey Votto on the injured list on Sunday, so that's something to pay attention to. In terms of that bat, I gotta imagine I love reading your piece over Awesemo.com with the home run hitters. That's one of my go-to pieces every day, because I'm always looking for those home run guys. So in terms of Votto being out of that lineup, what kind of how does that alter your opinion about the Reds lineup?
So it takes a piece away from the Reds lineup. He's never, well, in recent years anyway, for DFS purposes, he's a guy that is the third guy I've been clicking on in that lineup. He hasn't been the first guy that you click on. He hasn't been that Joey Votto in a couple seasons now. So it's definitely a bat out of this lineup. It's a guy who can still get on base, still has that great tool to him. So it's definitely going to take away from this lineup, but we still got plenty to like in this order, and you never know. It could actually create opportunity for a couple of different guys who have trouble finding plate appearances. They've got a crowded outfield down there, and they've got a guy like Nick Senzel who can play a lot of different positions. So you might see them with some unique combinations coming up, and it might do some interesting things for the flexibility of this lineup. You never know. But definitely taking a guy even at an older age like Joey Votto out of a lineup, it's going to have an impact here for sure.
And the other news item is Kris Bryant, the star third baseman for the Cubs. He has now missed 2 straight games. He has gone into the COVID-19 protocol. He has tested negative for COVID-19. He had some stomach issues. So, he had talked about Mike Moustakas self-reporting himself, and he's, doing the same thing here. And with the Cubs lineup, David Bote got the start there in leadoff spot today here on Sunday. Is he someone that, we should be paying attention to?
Well, if he's going to be getting that spot in this lineup, then sure. Especially if you're building Cub stacks, you certainly don't want to leave out anybody who's leading off, especially when you're getting a decent price on him. He's not going to be a guy that you're really going to target just in a DFS vacuum, though. He's certainly not going to replace Chris Bryant's bat and capabilities in this lineup. But if he's hitting in that spot at a cheap price and not many people are going to him, he's absolutely a cog in the machine that you can put into these Cub stacks for sure.
Of course, we're going to talk about the whole Monday slate here on DFS here on the Early Bird Podcast. Of course, we are sponsored by SuperDraft. The future of daily fantasy sports has arrived. Experience SuperDraft's exclusive game mode multiplier. Say goodbye to salary restrictions and a load of lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want and build your very own dream team. Countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want. SuperDraft offers contests for NBA, MLB, PGA, NASCAR, and MMA, so you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. Sign up for SuperDraft today using the promo code AWESEMO10, and it's $10 free on your first deposit of $10 or more and $20 total free on your first deposit of $100 or more. Download in the App Store or play at superdraft.io. SuperDraft, no limits, more winning. Of course, August 3rd is Monday, and that's the final day of this great promo we have going on for Awesemo Plus, as we are going to give you your first month of Awesemo Plus half off when you use the promo code RESTART at checkout. That's only $45 a month for Awesemo's leading DFS projections, tools, and content for NBA, MLB, PGA, and more. Celebrate the return of sports with this great deal. You won't find a better value anywhere else. This offer is valid through Monday, August the 3rd. So maybe if you're listening to this on Sunday night, you got to take advantage of that by tomorrow. Or if it's Monday, Monday is the last day to take advantage of that deal. So, Terry, let's get right into the slate here. We got 9 games coming up on Monday. First game is at 6:40. We got the Indians and the Reds. Sonny Gray off to a great start so far, 2-0 with a .71 ERA.
For sure. Yeah, Sonny's been dealing to start the season and pretty much ever since he left my Yankees, as far as I can tell. So not a guy that I typically like going to, just, personal bias, but certainly, very, very good pitcher. Tough spot. There's a lot of bats in the top of that Indians lineup that don't strike out that often. You've got, the top 4 hitters are around a 15% strikeout projection from Steamer. So not a ton of Ks in the top of the lineup, but certainly once he gets to the back end, he can just tear through these guys. There's pop in the back end of this lineup, but a lot of strikeouts. So I like the spot for Sonny. It's a bit of a challenge, but I think he gets through it, and I think he puts up a nice score tomorrow.
With the Indians, I think we always look at Lindor and Ramirez. I think we talked about last Sunday, like if you were looking at a stack, you could always go an Indians infield stack and a Yankees outfield stack if you want to do that. Obviously, Sonny, we've seen what he's been able to do so far. Is there anyone on the Indians that interests you in terms of this spot?
So it's funny you mentioned, those guys at the top of the order that I mentioned have the low K rates are that exact infield, right? It's basically around the horn for their infield. So you can make that stack here in MLB DFS and roll with it, even against a pitcher like Sonny. Maybe if it's a spot where you're picking up a little bit of leverage, and this game's in a weird spot for that on the slate. I think it's in the all day, not on the main slate on FanDuel. Not sure exactly on DK. But in a vacuum, you can pick up and make a play like that against a pitcher like Sonny, who's going to be somebody that people have, and maybe he scores some points that people aren't going to be otherwise picking up. And you can stack them, like you said, with a great outfield. They offer that flexibility. So there's a lot to like there. I got a little bit carried away with them today, and they didn't come through for me for that exact reason. I loved how they looked with the White Sox today, and it just didn't work out. But, they're a bit of a Swiss Army knife that way. So I do like that part of the Indians lineup.
Yeah, as we do this show, DraftKings not put out information for Monday, but on FanDuel, so you've got two contests that you can go. You got the all day, which is for the starting with the 6:40 game, or the main is starting with the 7:05 game, which is all the other games on Monday night. Plesac going for the Indians. Got to imagine his ownership is probably gonna be pretty low here.
I would think, it's if you didn't have him the other day, you probably missed the game of Zach Plesac's life. I don't know that he's ever going to go 8 and strike out 11 for us again. He's just not that guy. He's around 18% strikeout guy, 8.5% walk over his, that was his 2019 numbers in 21 starts, 506 FIP. So really nothing to see here. Even without Joey Votto, I think maybe we can get to some Reds bats here, though. I think, they're in a pretty good spot, and they've still got a lot of quality in this lineup. So, you see a guy like, Mike Moustakas, you've got Nick Castellanos here. Then you've got Japanese import Shogo Akiyama leading off up at the top, guy that can produce a lot with his hit tool and a lot with his legs for you. I mentioned Nick Senzel earlier, so keep an eye on where he's going to be playing. He's a guy, big time up and coming type of a kid. And Jesse Winker puts a lot of hard contact on the ball and bounces from the top of this order to the middle of it. So keep an eye on where those guys are hitting and how this stack comes together, but it could be a good spot tomorrow.
Yeah, he is looking at FanDuel. He would be the 5th highest pitcher on the slate. But, I mean, look, we got to imagine that we're going to have some high ownerships out of Garrett Cole, who we're about to talk about, Jacob deGrom, and just, of course, Sonny Gray. Those are your top 3. So you got to imagine that that's going to be kind of where people are going to lean to. Speaking of Garrett Cole, 2-0 in the year, 3.09 ERA. Scheduled to take on the Phillies here, and Jake Arrieta is slated for the start. I know. He's listed not currently as we do this show on MLB.com. They do not list a starter, but looking at the ESPN website, Jake Arrieta has mentioned a start. Of course, we all know the drama with the Phillies over the past couple of days as well. I guess it's the drama of Major League Baseball. What's kind of your thoughts on this game here?
Yeah, so I think we should start with a big asterisk of if this game happens, because it's still a major question mark in my head, right? I mean, this is a game that they've already tried to postpone once, brought it back, but who knows with everything, all the craziness that's been going on with the COVID outbreak and the situation with the Marlins and the Phillies and now into the Cardinals and hopefully not any other teams, but we'll see. If this game goes forward, we love Garrett Cole in pretty much any spot. I think the note that I made, the only thing I wrote for Cole was ace of aces. I mean, he is the best pitcher in baseball right now. There's a reason he got that contract from the Yankees. Struck out 39.9% of hitters last year, nearly 40% of all batters that faced him. Just an absolutely dominant pitcher. We saw him go 5 innings and then 6.2 innings. So the 6 2/3 innings start the other day against the Orioles. He was kind of scuffling a little bit. Wasn't really on his game and looked like he was having some communication issues with Sanchez. But they let him, they gave him a lot of rope, let him work through it, and he ended up putting up a decent start. So, decent for him, good for anybody else. So I love him here. I think it's a great spot. Phillies are a lineup that can hit anybody. They've got a ton of power in this lineup, a couple very good lefties, as we know, but it's Garrett Cole. I'm not going to let them frighten me off of the Cole shares that I want to get to here. He's going to be expensive. He's going to be popular, but it's a guy that I think we absolutely hammer. We can get to some Phillies bats as a play against that ownership with Cole. Certainly, like I said, you've got a Bryce Harper there. We love McCutchen leading off. He's got a great hit tool still packs a decent amount of power. A guy like Didi at shortstop, decent left-handed bat, decent amount of power for a shortstop. All these guys are going to be pretty low owned, so it's a decent leverage play against a guy like Cole. But it's not my real go-to point. Just to, maybe throw a couple darts at it.
Mention about the piece you always have up at Awesemo.com of looking for those home run guys. Is there one, maybe not the top Yankee guy, but is there someone maybe a little under the radar that you kind of look at and say, this may be someone to look at?
So just looking at the home runs here, I've got 4 Yankees all over 10 in my home run mark. So 10 means you've got a good chance of hitting a home run, just the way my model works, right? A guy that I think is losing a little bit of respect in the industry and not getting the ownership he deserves and is at a very good price is Gary Sanchez. Gary fills in that catcher spot on DK. He's at 2,800 on FanDuel. You can get to some unique constructions by building in him and Luke Voigt from the back end of this at both of the corner spots on FanDuel, and then put in some of that outfield power with this lineup, or put in a guy like Gleyber Torres. I think the Yankees have a few guys that profile very well against the sinker-slider mix that Arrieta puts up. So while I like Gary as a sneakier pick, I think if gun to my head I had to pick somebody in this lineup to hit a home run, it would be Gleyber Torres. Gleyber gets to that sinker and elevates it a lot, and that is going to be right in his zone.
And then speaking of the New York teams, we got the Mets and the Braves. DeGrom going for the Mets, 0-0, 1.64. Soroka going for the Braves, 0-0 with a 1.59. So I just pulled up the hitting stats for teams. And I didn't pull up strikeouts. Number 1, the Braves, 112. Mets, number 2 at 98.
Yeah, so this could be a spot to target some pitchers. I think this is it's interesting, right? They're 2 offenses that we like. They're good offenses, but there's certainly a lot of swing and miss available. And I think Jake deGrom needs no introduction. Mike Soroka, guy that is probably a better real life pitcher in general than a DFS pitcher, but it could be a good spot here. It could be a sneaky value, and he might not get that much ownership just because of that. There's a couple aces on the slate. There's a couple guys people are going to like better, and he does have that rep of, hey, he's not a great DFS option. He's a good guy. He's a good pitcher, but not the strongest DFS guy. So we might be able to get sneaky with him. He's only around a 20% K guy, but with this lineup going against him, he could pick up a couple bonus Ks and put up a very nice score for us. We saw Kyle Wright basically keep this lineup down for his limited 3 innings. I think he struck out 5 today in just 3 innings. So Soroka's better than Kyle Wright.
And of course, was it Friday? Both these teams just went off. It was I think the Braves won 11-10. The Braves bats have been getting going here. So I think is it, baseball is one of those things of you like to follow trends. Sure.
And look, I love this Braves team. It's a team I've written up a couple different times. I really like how the bats come together. Dansby Swanson is a guy I can't stop talking about this year. I loved him coming into the season back in March when we were having a regular season, and nothing has changed. He's started out the year really strong, and he's been hitting them toward the top of the lineup a lot. So a guy I love building into this stack. Everybody knows about Acuna. Freddie Freeman is obvious. Marcell Ozuna is a guy who suffered last year from extremely bad batting average on balls in play, but his power never left, and it's come back in droves this year. So he's crushing the ball right now. So guy I love. So it's a stack I really like to get to. I don't know that this is the spot, though, with Jake DeGrom on the hill. Back-to-back Cy Young Award winner, just an absolutely dominant pitcher. Maybe some dart throws, as again, it's going to be a pitcher that everybody's going to be on. So, how much would you want to get to him if you were rolling 150? How many Braves lineups do you think you would put out there?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Braves, even though they won 4-0 today, 9 strikeouts, 17 guys left on base.
Oh, God. That is brutal. That is absolutely brutal. And they were in a lot of my lineups, so now I'm just thinking about what could have been for me today instead of focusing on tomorrow's.
That is definitely understandable. Moving on, we got the Pirates and the Twins. Holland going for the Pirates. He's 0-0 with a 3.18 ERA. Bailey slated to go for the Twins, 1-0 with a 3.60 ERA.
Yeah, I think Derek Holland is a guy I want to target with bats here. Those Twins home run mashers playing at home against a guy like him. I think this is a great spot for some of that right-handed Twins power. He's a 1.32 homer per 9 for his career as a lefty. And last year in his 81 innings in 2019, he was a 2.13 homer per 9 guy. So, this is a guy you can absolutely go deep off of. And we know that these Twins set a record for home runs last year. They added Josh Donaldson to replace C.J. Cron's power. So that's an uptick. They have 5 guys above 10 on my home run mark, and 3 of them are above 14. Let's put it that way. So this is just an absolute home run spot for the Twins. I want 0 Derek Holland in my life tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to have a single share of him. He could get something done for you like we saw the last time out, but it's just really, really not a good spot and not something I'm going to own. Bailey, kind of similar. The offense for the Pirates is certainly not the same as the offense for the Twins here. Bailey's a low 20 strikeout percentage guy, above average walk rate, kind of a mess spot. Gives up about the same amount of power to both sides of the plate. Not a guy I'm going to look to get to, but if I have a few shares of him, I don't really mind it. Maybe some of the lefty power, Colin Moran from the Pirates, maybe build down from Adam Frazier, just build a little 4-man stack with the top of their lineup here.
I was going to ask you that about the stack of are the Twins one of your favorite stacks tomorrow?
Twins absolutely are one of my favorite stacks with a bullet. If EMAC doesn't beat me to it tonight, I'll probably be writing them up tonight for the chalky one. I think it's a spot a lot of people are going to be on, so we're going to have to find ways to get creative with it, but definitely.
Then we got the White Sox and the Brewers. Rondon scheduled to go for the White Sox. He's 0-1 with a 12.27 ERA. And Hauser slated to go for the Brewers. He's 0-0 with a 1.80 ERA.
Yeah, so Carlos Rodon, the first thing I checked was his age, because I feel like this is a guy I've been waiting for forever at this point. I think I owned him in a dynasty league 10 years ago. Like that.
I'm with you on that one.
He's just been kicking around, and there's so much strikeout capability in that left arm of his, and he's just not able to harness it. So he was showing some quality last year before he went down for Tommy John surgery. I think it was 8 starts that he made. He was pulling a 29.1 K percentage, the best mark of his career in that, best sustained mark anyway, and a 10.8 walk, which was down from his previous, which was around 12. So he's showing a little bit of improvement. But what I really like was he was pulling down a 3.62 FIP to a 5.19 ERA. So nice, strong FIP differential there. But that was all before he blew up his elbow and went out for the rest of last year. Came back, made a shaky start to start this year, and we're kind of right back where we started from with Rodon. So I don't expect much here. I love the spot for the Brewers bats. Right-handed bats like Kistanura, Ryan Braun, Avi Garcia. The lefty bats we know and love, Christian Yelich will play against anybody here. Carlos Rodon's not going to change that. Switch hitting Justin Smoke, ton of power there. So probably a spot I'm going to get some more Brewers bats than I am Rodon. I might throw a couple bullets with him just because there's a good amount of Ks in the heart of this Brewers lineup as well. So he could work his way through it over 5 and put up a decent strikeout game. You never know.
In terms of the White Sox bats, anything jump out to you about what could be there?
Could be a lot of strikeouts to be had in this lineup for sure. It's a lineup up and down. Pretty much everybody's projected for in the middle 20s or higher from Steamer for strikeouts, for strikeout percentage rather. But it's a lineup that I absolutely love this year. I've mentioned it, I think, pretty much every time I've been on a pod. I keep writing them up. They moved Luis Robert up to the top spot now. He's leading off for this team. I love him up there. You can build a phenomenal stack from 1 through 6 with this lineup now. They just added Nick Madrigal to the bottom end of this order. He's got a phenomenal hit tool. He's not a power guy, so he's not going to. Don't expect him to hit you a grand slam, a 3-run homer. He's not that guy. But he's a guy who's going to be on base. He's going to be generating a lot with his legs, and he's a guy who, if he's hitting 9th, we can use him as a valuable wraparound at second base for no money and put him up on top of those big mashers up at the top of this lineup. So it's a lineup I really love to mix and match and do things with. You have to get creative with the 3 first base / corner guys on FanDuel, 2 first basemen on DraftKings. But there's a lot of different combinations with the White Sox.
We mentioned about the Cubs with Chris Bryant a little earlier. They're going to be taking on the Royals. Duffy going for the Royals, 0-1 with a 5.79 ERA. Mills slated to go for the Cubs. He's 1-0 with a 3.0 ERA.
Yeah, Duffy's a guy, I like him here and there. And when he's a good matchup, I'll get to him if he's low owned. And I think he's a guy who can, against a meh to a bad team, I think he can be a little bit reliable, put up some strikeouts. This is not that team. Even without Chris Bryant in there, I don't think he's going to make it through this lineup. There's just too many good righty hitters here. Guy like Ian Happ even down at the bottom of this lineup, or they might bounce him up with Bryant out. Just puts a move on the ball every time he swings the bat. Strikes out a lot, but he's getting it under control. Still a lot to develop in the kid. Really like that he's here full time now, and I think he's going to be a very productive player for the Cubbies. And then you've got Javi Baez. Just an absolute masher of a right-handed bat at shortstop. You've got Wilson Contreras as a great catcher option on DraftKings or on FanDuel at the corner catcher spot. So ton of bats here. Definitely not a spot I'm really going to be rolling with much Duffy. 1.45 and a 1.39 in the last 2 years in home runs per 9. So it gives up the long ball quite a bit. And in a Wrigley game, I just think it's going to be a Cubs game all the way. That's the side I want to be on.
No, I was going to mention about Ian Happ. Wasn't in the lineup today. Did come in as a pinch hitter. But obviously you expect him to be back in the lineup come tomorrow. Giants and the Rockies. Gonzalez going for the Rockies, making a season debut here. Cueto 0-0 with a 5.87. We all know how much we love Coors Field.
Yeah, that's basically our headline here. I looked at the pitching matchup and just kind of chuckled and moved on when I was making my notes. These 2 starters at Coors Field, this is going to be a bloodbath. Get to bats here if you're a Coors fan. It's interesting. To me, Coors isn't really a who's in the lineup, who's starting, what's it look like kind of a spot for me when it's on the slate. It's just what does the ownership look like? If everybody's flocking to it, I tend to go the other way. If people are leaving it alone for whatever reason, I tend to go to it. It's basically as simple as that for me with Coors. I'll get it. Don't get me wrong. They're in my lineups today. They'll be in my lineups tomorrow. But a lot of how much I get to it is dictated by that and that alone. And I almost never play pitching there. Every now and then I might roll Johnny Gray against a San Francisco Giants, but not Chichi Gonzalez. This is not the spot for pitching.
No, I remember I was doing the Live Before Lock show on Friday, and you could just tell it in the chat. Everyone was going to be on that Rocky stack. They were going to be, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to fade it today. Because I was just like, man, the ownership's just going to be way too high. I'm going to look at stacks in other places. But, when you look at this slate on Monday, are we looking at another high ownership stack here with the Rockies?
Probably. I think they're probably going to be one of the best spots. Just looking down the list, obviously those are my two bottom projected pitchers. And that's how I like to look for stacks sometimes, is just start with my lowest projected pitchers and take a look at the offenses against them. So I think the Yanks are going to get a lot of ownership against Arrieta there. I think the Twins are going to get a ton against Holland. So you might be able to get away with some lower-owned Rockies, maybe some of the bats toward the back end of the middle of the lineup, and then, like a Hilliard if he's in the lineup hitting seventh, somebody like that against a Johnny Cueto. Does a lot with his bat and a lot with his legs for you. So if you can build him into a middle of the lineup stack that ends with him, or maybe wrap around with like a Raimel Tapia down all the way at 8 to the top of the lineup, get different with it, get funky with it, and you could land on something good. The Giants probably be less owned, but certainly a lot less quality in that lineup.
Then we got the Athletics and the Mariners. The A's looking at Montas going for the A's, even though on FanDuel he was not listed quite yet. He's 0-1 with a 3.00 ERA. Sheffield going for the Mariners, 0-1 with a 12 ERA.
Yeah, so Montas is a pitcher I really like here. There's a ton of strikeouts available in that Mariners lineup. Everybody is well over 22, 23%, and significantly above in their steamer projections for strikeout rates. So I love his ability to get some Ks, some cheap, easy Ks here, and there's not a lot of bats to fear. He gives up a little bit more to lefties than he does to righties. So we know he's got to work around Kyle Seager here, but really, I'm not that afraid of him. I'm not that afraid of a Dan Vogelbach. So I think Montas puts up a very solid start for us here. If he's going to be cheap and he's relatively inexpensive, for the slate, there's a lot of garbage pitching that I don't want that's cheaper. But as far as pitchers I do want, he's on the cheaper end. So I think I'm going to have a lot of them here against the Mariners. I think it's going to be a go-to pitching spot for me. Justice Sheffield, not so much. Certainly not against these A's bats with all their right-handed power. Even Matt Olson is a lefty, but he gets to lefties very well. There's strikeouts available in this lineup, but I just think Sheffield's not here yet. I think he's going to be a reasonably good pitcher. He had decent K rates in the minors, but he's just not a guy that I think is seasoned enough, and this is not the spot for him.
Yeah, I was just looking here on FanDuel. They've got him at 7,700.
Montas?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so, when you're comparing with Garrett Cole, Walker Bueller, Jake DeGrom, he's still, 800 less than Soroka. So that's my target right there, as far as a mid-range pitcher. I don't really like any of the other names in that range. Mm-hmm. Alec Mills is 7,000. Homer Bailey is 7,700. So would you rather have Frankie Montas or Homer Bailey? That's a no-brainer to me.
Well, right? I was just kind of thinking about it. If one of our listeners is a single entry type player, they're going to play one lineup, and you know what? Maybe they don't want to spend up and get one of those top-notch pitchers on this slate. Is Montas the guy? I think so. Just, casual glance. I like the spot better than I like the Soroka spot against the Mets. Among my top pitchers, I would say Montas is the guy for that situation. And with the bats that we know we want to get to, say you want to put together either the Coors bats with the Yankees or the Twins, or the Yankees and the Twins together, you're going to probably need some of that pitcher savings tomorrow. You're not going to be able to get to those full stacks of those teams with a Garrett Cole, with a Walker Bueller, with a Jake DeGrom. So I think that's a tremendous spot. And, of course, the final game of the night will be the Dodgers and the Padres. Bueller 0-0, 4.91 ERA. Paddock going for the Pods, 1-0 with a 1.64.
Yeah, this is going to be, I think, a great pitcher's duel. We've got a good pitcher's park, playing in Petco in San Diego. So I really love both of these arms. Bueller is an absolute ace. He's here already. He was here last year, last 2 years. His first 2 years in the league, his first 54 starts, 28.5 strikeout percentage to a 6.2 walk percentage. That's just lights out for anybody. For a kid who's making his first 50 starts in the league, that's just dominant. And he's only going to get better from here. So this is a kid I love. I'll roll him against anybody. The price tag's big, 10,000, but you're still saving 1,000 off a Cole. So I think it's a good spot. Padres are certainly gettable. There's a couple guys in this lineup that strike out, that limit the strikeout a little bit, but Bueller can get to anybody. So definitely a pitcher I'll have. I want to be over the field on him, so I'm going to monitor closely in the top pitchers tool, which I've been using a lot lately. I think that's a great resource. Just check out what his chance of being one of the top 2 pitchers on the night is compared to his ownership, and fire away. It tells you exactly how much you want to be, in comparison to the field.
Yeah,
Paddock is another guy. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, man, that's what you got to use all those tools to your advantage, because there's some times where you can, like I'll relate this to NBA. Michael Porter Jr. Everyone's going to be on him, yesterday because his salary was so low. So I was like, you know what? I'm fading away from that. That ownership is just too high for me. So that's one of the tools I always look at. I look at that ownership tool. Who's going to be, especially when you're looking at more the lower price options that people are going to try to jump on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it helps you find those decision points, right? If you say, all right, I know that I want to get off this guy, but where do I go? If I pay up, I got to change 3 things about my lineup that I don't want to change. So how do I go down? And who's a comparable pitcher that's in a better spot that I like? And that's so easy to do with that tool. You just look down, you look 2 spots down, compare the salary. All right, this guy's a 5% chance of being the best pitcher. That guy was a 6.5. You're not sacrificing much, and you could pick up 10, 20% ownership in your favor on it. It's a tremendous, tremendous tool. I love it. So yeah, Paddock is a guy against this Dodgers offense. It's going to be tricky to get to him. They're very, very good, but I think he's going to be low owned, and I think he's going to have decent quality in that tool. So he's a guy I'm also going to be really checking out tomorrow. Another guy, his first 28 starts in the league, pretty comparable to Bueller as far as strikeout and walk rate. 26.7% strikeout, 5.3% walk. Limits the opportunities, strikes out a ton of hitters. He does give up the long ball. In 2019, he was a 1.47 home run per 9. So he's definitely got to watch that against this Dodgers team. They could get to him quick. But if he's limiting opportunity, he could keep the score low, put up a sneaky quality start here.
In terms of the content you got coming on Monday on Awesemo.com, what can people be looking out for?
So overnight tonight, I'll have the usual quick hits column. That's where you have the home run picks. The team-by-team picks have been strong. I got to get my home run call off the schneid, though. After going strong the first week, I think I went 0 for the second week, so that's a little bit embarrassing. But we'll pick that one up, and then the stack slants all day during the afternoon tomorrow. We pick up a couple of the low-owned options looking at the top stacks tool.
Of course, if you're listening to this on YouTube, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know every time there is an Awesemo show that is online. Come on Monday on Awesemo.com and the Awesemo YouTube channel. We've got NBA Strategy Show, NHL Strategy Show. We got NBA Live Before Lock, MLB Live Before Lock, PGA First Look as well. So you want to check out all those shows on Awesemo.com. Of course, be sure to check out our sponsor, SuperDraft. Use that promo code Awesemo10, and it's $10 free in your first deposit of $10 or more, and $20 total free in your first deposit of $100 or more. Download now in the App Store or play at superdraft.io. SuperDraft, no limits, more winning. Also, Monday is the final day of that promo code RESTART, where you're going to get your first month of Awesemo Plus half off when you use promo code RESTART checkout, and that does come to an end here on August the 3rd. Terry, man, as always, appreciate time, and I'll be talking to you next Sunday, man.
Sounds good. Good stuff.